Welcome, travelers. I'm Josh.
And I'm Lee Wanika. And this is Tabletop Journeys, where we will be your not-so-humble guides on the quest for RPG adventures.
All right, welcome everybody to tonight's episode of Tabletop Journeys. I'm very excited for tonight's guest, and we will get into that in just a minute here. But before we do, Luanika, nice to see you. It feels like it's been a while again since we've recorded, I guess, but it really hasn't been. It was just like last week when we recorded the actual play. Why am I blanking on the name of the game now? Yeah.
Yeah, Blade 68.
Blade 68. Thank you. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, the Blades in the Dark actual play. So anyway, how the heck are you? How are things down in Connecticut?
Things are great. I have finished my decompress from a fantastic gaming weekend. Had a blast at Tabletop Utopia in Hartford, Connecticut. Had wonderful game sessions. Met some great fellow GMs. Nice. It's a newer con. It's a bit smaller right now, but it is growing. Made great connections with some of the vendors and dealers, and reconnected with friends that I've been meeting at all the cons I've been going to lately. Just a wonderful time. It's very close to my house. It's actually like 40 minutes away. Nice. So not very far, but just a lot of fun. Ran some great games and a lot more on the channel about the games we ran, because what I was running this past weekend, you're going to see a lot of coming up.
I appreciate, at the risk of being too spoiler about it, I appreciate all the playtesting that you are getting done with Sea of Fire, which will be coming out this fall, this summer. So very excited for the feedback once again on that front. I have also been moving through this week through my gray wall of shame. I'm not sure if I have said it officially here, but with the move of my office from downstairs up to where my office is now, I have decided that moving all of my unpainted figs for like the third or fourth time in their unpainted state is no longer tenable, and so I have made a promise to everybody in the household here that I will paint 100 figs before I buy another unpainted figs. Skinny minis are excluded because sometimes those are necessary, but that's I am well on my way. I've been posting some of the pictures to Blue Sky. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't have to paint those. They're not unpainted. I'm all about the technicalities, Yeah, I've been posting some of the pictures on Blue Sky. The Fey Unicorn, I was really happy with the way that guy came out. I've been doing a lot of terrain work also too, which is because that's kind of always been like where my painting love was in terrain side. So I've been working through some of the battle system sets, some really interesting stuff there. So yeah, really looking forward to, and I'm also very excited because my home game. I have talked numerous times about where my home game is. My home game is kind of a mix of a couple of seasoned players, but mostly new players. And so we're halfway through Nest of the Eldritch Eye. And so they are about to enter the area of the map where things go from undead poop monsters to really, really bad stuff. And the big critical reveal at the end of that mission, I think is just gonna reel them. So I'm very excited for that. I trotted out the Curse of Strahd flavor zombies. That was perhaps a almost a tactical misstep on my part, because the campaign almost ended very quickly and dangerously at that moment. But thanks to some very cunning play by my players, they made it out okay. So that's always a good thing when that happens.
Yeah. At some point, we're gonna have to do a quick down and dirty episode on encounter mishaps. I think, right? For sure. I think we're due, because I had a near miss this weekend myself during one encounter, but greatness. Yeah, but absolutely. That's not what we're here to jab about. That is not what we're here for. We've got other things to talk about, and I am anxious to do so.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and bring in our guest. Yeah. So everybody out there, I would like to introduce you to Chris Hill from Scrap Yarn Games. First of all, Chris, it's going to be very strange calling you Chris, because again, I've known you for like years and years as your SCA persona, Mistress Christiana Crane. But Chris, first of all, welcome to Tabletop Journeys. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, we are very happy to go ahead, and I really appreciate you sending copies of your game, the solo journaling game, the Sylvan. So before we kind of get into the list of questions that we have gotten ready for ahead of time, talk to us about the Sylvan. What is the Sylvan? What's
So the Sylvan is a solo RPG, a combination of map making and journaling, where you're really exploring a world. You're playing a character who is able to travel between worlds, and there are 4 worlds in the world of the Sylvan, and you're able to kind of go between these places, and you're helping people out along the way, or maybe you're not helping people out, maybe you're hindering people along the way. That's kind of part of the story, but ultimately you are trying to escape the 4 worlds, and to do that you need to earn coin. And you earn coin by helping people get from one world to another. And if you can earn enough money, you can pay so that somebody else can help you go to where you want to be. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of it.
I love it. Yeah. There's so much even kind of in that description of it that is so evocative. I'm really excited to kind of dive into this a little bit here today. And so Link, I think in all that is right and proper to go ahead and decide who's going to go first. I think we have to draw cards, which is the mechanic that the Sylvan uses to go ahead and travel between worlds here. So let's see here. I've got that's a poor draw. 5 of hearts for me. So.
This is going to be very interesting because very much like I had bought a brand new set of dice from one of the vendors this weekend, and my very first roll was a natural 20. I rolled, I don't even know if it's going to show up on camera, probably not. That is an ace of spades.
Okay.
Because Lemmy always wins, baby. The ace of spades! Ace of spades!
I think you're the only person that's saying that worse than Lemmy. That's kind of crazy. So, all right, well, I guess then, sir, the initial
I don't have the
is yours. You're right. You're right. He's got the vapor. Okay.
And scene.
Yeah, right. Why don't you roll over that first question tonight when you pull yourself together?
So,
it's a shame we don't have any fun.
Yeah, this is a terrible job. It's lousy. We hate being here. We never smile. All I ever do. No. Again, Chris, thank you so very much for joining us. As Josh said, my time in Maine, you and I have circled orbits for years and years, and I am so glad that I get to meet you virtually at this time, and hopefully in person at some point in the near future. But the game, love it, and I have a lot of questions because I'm just so interested in the creation of it. I love, obviously, role-playing. Solo journaling was something very weird. A few years ago, Glenn brought it to our attention. It's really the first time I'd actually really heard of it with any amount of interest or merit. It's like I always knew it was out there in the realms, but nobody ever knew did it. Never had any connection with it. And then from that point on, I started hearing it and seeing it. And I've done a lot of work with a Star Trek game, Captain's Log, and the solo journaling. And you had made a comment with the letter you had sent to me when you had sent the copy of the book, that it's very helpful, or it can be very helpful for idea fuel and world building and for GMs, which is exactly what I use the Captain's Log game for. And as a fan of fantasy realms and things like that, I look at this as saying, this is a very interesting way to build something another way. So my question, with all that amazing preamble, is what came first, the idea to do a solo game the idea to do a game, and then it just morphed and naturally became a solo game. I guess it's the chicken and the egg. Like, what was the formation of the idea, and like, where did it start from, and how did we get to this point?
So, so going back to the pandemic, right? Everybody was playing games virtually, like on Zoom or however you got together with your friends to play games. And coming out of that, and we had time, right? Like, nobody had to drive anywhere. We weren't going anywhere anyway. So we played these games, and they lasted a really long time. Play for 4 or 5 hours, right? And coming out of the pandemic, everything started opening up again. We're getting together to play, which is always infinitely better. But now, all right, well, everybody's got driving time, and I have work the next day, or I've got some other thing I got to go do. So game time is shorter and shorter and shorter. And still fun, but there are elements. My favorite part of role playing is absolutely like the story, like the interaction between players, the stories that come out of that. Like I like fighting the monsters, but I also like the sitting around the campfire parts of RPGs. And in a shorter RPG, we just didn't have the time to really dive into those stories. And there's a game called, I wish I had it right here. It's AM 1680 AM, I think is the game, is what it's called. And it's a solo RPG that you are running a radio station. And you have an oracle system to get callers. And the callers call in and they have requests. And then you're putting together a playlist based on the requests of the people who are calling. So there are like rules for what kind of songs that you can put into play. It's a very, very cool game.
I need this in my life too.
It's fantastic. It's a fantastic, and of course he won a bunch of awards for it too. Yeah, man, that's not the title. We should get the title. Can I grab the title real quick?
The name of the game is Void 1688.
Void 1680. That's what it's called. Okay, so check this game out. It's fantastic.
Is it really 1680?
Yeah.
Void 1680 AM. So you're running like an AM radio station.
Yeah.
And it's great. So I played this game, and I'm like, that was a lot of fun. And in my head, I'm coming up with the backstories of all the people who are calling, and like then it's digging deep into my musical library of what am I going to play for? How do I fill this request for this song? And so that just experience of sitting down and playing a game by myself kind of filled in some of that need that I had for telling these stories, right? And that became another RPG, another solo RPG, and another one, and another one. So now I've played a whole bunch of these. And a friend of mine, who is the original Sylvan, she goes by Sulakina, she came up with a art challenge. And she's got this picture, the one that's on the cover, was one of the pictures she sent out and said, here, I'm going to send you these pictures. I want you to do whatever you want with them as an art experiment. Like, I'm going to create some things. I'm going to send them to other people, and they're going to create things. If you want to play, I'll send them to you, and you can play too. So she sends me this packet with the pictures. And this is, it's just such a fantastic photo. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And because I had been playing all these solo RPGs, I'm going to make a solo RPG. And I sat down and I started noodling with, what does this picture say to me? And what kind of game is this going to be? And thinking about Sulakina as a person and what she brings as a relationship. Josh is nodding because he knows her, and she's just she's one of these phenomenal people that just as good at like everything she does. Like anything she puts her hand to is amazing.
Yeah.
And
almost annoyingly good at everything. Yeah.
Right. But wants to help everybody out too. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, all right, well, how can I make that into a game? And it kind of just sort of spilled out of me from there of, oh, well, this is a cool idea. Let's use for my Oracle, I'll have a deck of cards and that became all the prompts in the back for writing. One of the things I found about solo RPGs, I like the journaling aspect, but I am a gamer at heart, and I do want to I don't need a lot of mechanics, but I want some mechanics. And so then it's like, all right, well, I love making maps. How do I make that a part of the game that actually makes a difference, how you lay things out and where you're going and how you get from place to place. And it just kind of all fell together in this great, it's just, I had so much fun working on this and coming up with ideas and it was a neat experience to take somebody's art prompt and turn it into an RPG that I've become quite fond of that style of play.
I have to say that the map mechanics in general, I think, are probably some of my favorite things in this game. Like, just in general, just as a statement. So,
the map making part is fun. Everybody likes the map making part, right? Like,
it fills both my map making heart and my randomness heart at the same time. Like, it's like you never.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah. Like, you can try to game the system about making the map the way that you want it, but it never works. I've tried. It's like,
yeah. I played a game that had that map making was a major portion of it. And it was The Quiet Year.
Yes.
I played that this weekend, which, by the way, another brilliant game.
Really good game.
Josh has spoken about it many times, and many people I know have played it and seen it. I had never got a chance to play it. I knew it was supposed to be very cool, but for whatever reason, never had. I had some free moments at the convention, and somebody said, "Hey, you want to play with us?" So I sit down, I'm playing this game. It was an amazing game. It was a lot of fun. And at the end, when they're packing it away, I see that it's The Quiet Year. I'm like, did I just play The Quiet Year? I actually played the entire game, never knew that that's what it was. They're like, yes. And I'm like, holy wow. So, and I get those same kind of vibes with this. It's like, this is the kind of thing that I'm going to play through, and I'm going to be like, I did something with this. Like, I can see myself, if I hold myself fast to don't try to control it, just do it the way it's written, then whatever comes out on the back end of that, that's what's going to be sweet and amazing. Like we don't do enough things like that. Like a lot of things that we do as game designers and writers is we try to steer that ship a little bit too much. It is a loose hand on the till that cuts through the waves kind of situation. If I'm going to butcher somebody else's phrase, and I don't know who said that originally or how it was originally said, but it was something like that. But, that's the kind of game that this is that I want to be a part of.
I think that solo RPGs, I found as I was playing through all of these solo RPGs, and there's so many this is the one that I'm playing now. It's Fox Curio's Floating Bookshop. And it's a very gentle, it's like Stardew Valley, but solo RPG, right? There's a meditative quality to it. Like if you're a game master and you're sitting down to create a world that you're going to then run players through, it's very mechanical in some ways. Like, all right, I know I'm going to need to do this, and I want to put in this. And when you play a solo RPG, because you have that oracle element, the deck of cards or the dice rolls or however the system chooses to give you those elements of randomness, you can't plan everything, so it becomes this almost meditative experience of just sitting quietly with your own brain and letting stuff kind of flow past. And what do you see and what do you pick up, and what then becomes, I hadn't thought of that. how does that work into this story now? And, oh, this relates to something that I did, 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, last time I played. And now I've got a callback to that. And it's a recurring character, or a recurring theme, or a recurring, issue, or it's kind of a nice, like, palate cleanser almost for, and like I said, don't get me wrong, I love playing in a group of people. Like, that dynamic is fantastic. But especially if you're a game master, playing in a solo RPG, you get that sense of playing with someone else, but it's just you and it's just your thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all of that stuff can be used for other games. Now I'm going to bring other people in and I'm going to run them through the world I just created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let Josh grab his question because I will bogart this mic all night with this conversation. Because I don't do a lot of traveling, but there are a couple conventions I go to where there's a fair amount of travel. So I'll have a couple hours in the hotel room where I need to decompress from the game.
Yeah.
Revisiting and mulling over a game that I've already spent weeks prepping for and run for a few times isn't going to help me run a better game. Mm-hmm. But I do need to keep the creative juices flowing. I do need to relax a bit, and this is that kind of thing. Or if I'm flying out to a catacon, I'm on that plane as opposed to watching another bad Indiana Jones movie. I could just sit with a good game and do this. Yeah. Last year I did Captain's Log, and I built the ship and did all kinds of cool things, which show up in different places. Now this is something that it's going to definitely help me with more fantasy elements and bringing in different things. I've got some great Fey Wanderer style D&D characters that I could really see would be much, much more rich through having come from a world like this.
Oh, yeah. Right. I mean, at one point in my tabletop, in my home game campaign, like, my players will wind up in the Feywild at some point for reasons. And being able to go ahead and build rich NPC or not player character, however you want, are they big bads, are they whatever, but being able to go ahead and kind of build them with this kind of methodology to kind of say, this is who they are, this is what they have done, this is how they got there, this is why they got there, all that sort of stuff. It's stuff that, like, you can go ahead and, like, scratch your head up and kind of, like, come up with on the fly, or you can, like, there are random generators, but this is so much more fun. You know what I mean? Like, this it's so much more depth to it. So
why be mechanical when you can be creative with it?
You can be narrative, people. Exactly. Yeah. So
let the internal music flow.
Yeah. So I'm gonna jump in here before Luanika continues to go ahead and say that he's going to let me go ahead and ask a question because otherwise it's never going to happen here. And normally this
you have your window.
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah. Normally this is the point where we would ask, like, the very mundane question about, like, how did you come into gaming and everything like that. But there is too much interesting in this book, and I don't want to go there because you run a game store. So I'm assuming that you came into gaming.
Right. Like, I've been playing RPGs since I was 10. And
there you go.
It's the same story that everybody else has got.
Perfect.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Done. Yeah. The question that I wanted to ask was about sort of you'd mentioned the mechanics and how like it's a solo journaling game, and a lot of times those can be very rules light or rules non-existent kind of thing.
Right.
Yours definitely does have rules, and there are definitely mechanics for your character, but they handle what can be very complex concepts in such a simple, elegant way. Just the whole interplay between the fact that there are things that are immutable and there are things which are variable. And that's it. Like, that's basically the guidance that you give us. I want to know kind of how that came about. Like, how did you decide that, well, these are the mechanics that I need, but I really want to go ahead and, rather than kind of like step into it, I want to step away from it and really kind of, and kind of, how did that, look, we write, we produce books full of very complicated things, how did the simplicity of that fall out? Because I'm dying to know how you realized that was all that it needed to be.
I am a very big proponent of kill your darlings. Like, there are a lot of rules that are littered around the floor of my desk that just, like, well, do I, and that was the question I always asked myself, do I need this rule in the game? Can I make it simpler? If I make it simpler, do I even need the rule? And that wheedled down something that was large and cumbersome to something that was much more streamlined. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Streamlined is a great way to go ahead and put it. Like it's
yeah. So I definitely want there to be a set of rules. I like the free form, the more rules like games. Those are nice, but a lot of times for me that just feels like a writing prompt. And what I wanted was a game, right? Like something that I have a goal that I am trying to achieve, and I have to be able to fail at that goal. Because if you don't actually have, I think a lot of people dislike solo RPGs because they figure, well, it's just me, I can make it do anything. And you can, but the story comes when you can't do a thing, right? So I wanted to make a game that definitely had well, I didn't get my 5 coins. I guess I don't get to leave the 4 worlds. I didn't get to pay the trickster to take me away. Okay. And how do you make that part of the game? All right. Well, now I need to have something that you've got to have a way that you can buy a thing. Well, maybe people are paying you to take them places. All right. Well, then let's work that mechanic in. And you just kind of backfill until you have a set of rules that seem to work. And then you do a lot of playtesting. And I have some really great playtesters who I love them. They are the best ever. Yeah. And they sat down with me and we went through stuff and they gave recommendations about things they really liked and then things that made no sense. And the things that made no sense, I sat down and reworked and came up with something. Oh, that's a much better idea. It's much smoother. That's much cleaner. Or I don't really need that at all. Let's get rid of that entirely. And then you have something simple.
Yeah. I think your bit about how the failure condition is present is really, really important, because I would say that not only is it like present in the game, but it is a little bit more than likely that you will not succeed. And I think that is a very interesting angle for a solo journaling game. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I've played through it now a few times. I mean, we've been talking about having you on the show now for probably the better part of 3, probably since before the holidays, honestly, when my life was crazy, nutsy cuckoo, right? And so like when you sent it to me, I was like, oh wait, I gotta play this. I gotta check this out. And I tried it probably like 3 or 4 times trying to go through it, like making decisions and then realizing like halfway through, like, oh, that decision that I made when I kind of set up my Sylvan is not going to work for what I needed to do here. Like this is, so it took a while to kind of figure out how to, I don't want to say succeed at the game, because I feel like I succeeded at the game every time that I played, because the non-victory condition was just as appealing or just as satisfying as the victory condition. So I guess I'm not sure that I ever lost the game, but I certainly didn't succeed at the point of the game, or the stated point of the game of getting out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a very fine line in between, like, did I win? Did I lose? Did I succeed? Did I not succeed?
If I were to hazard a guess at the way to think about that, I would say the difference is it is a game, and there is a purpose for the game. However, from a character perspective, it is a character's life. Yeah. So while you may not have achieved quote unquote end of game mechanical conclusion, right, the character's life was still resonant and enjoyable because you got that experience, and that is a character you get to play through another time.
It's the hero's journey. You're exactly right. Like there are things that happen in the life of that character that are not necessarily a victory condition, which is really interesting. Like again, you don't.
But are they? Yeah. Even if they're not a victory condition.
Yeah.
Are they still? Are they really? I mean, maybe you didn't get to escape, but maybe in your story, you helped other people enough that, that's
sure.
That's enough.
Yeah, or maybe there's a reason why you thought you wanted to escape, but you didn't need
Decided to stay. Yeah.
Right. So like there's so many kind of ways to go ahead and take it. I love it. I'll freaking.
And I really tried to make sure that there are no like throwaway choices. Like every decision you make, the player should have. I think in a good game, there should always be when you're presented with a choice, those two choices should matter, right? Like, if you say yes, I'm going to do this, all right, but that then takes away from maybe your ability to do something larger or more important in your next turn. It's like, oh, well, I did this other thing, and now I don't have the resources to do this thing. So
right, exactly. I mean, if I burn through all of my traits trying to go ahead and do stuff, then that might just mean that I am now stuck here, and or that I am permanently here in whatever world I'm in. Which that's another question for. I won't double dip you. I'll stop there for now. But yeah, love it.
I was looking for that. I was gonna put that in the blackmail bank. I mean, it's stuffed to the gills, but I can always add another gill.
I will instead gentlemanly pass it back over to you, Lunica.
Thank you for that. The gentle person from Maine has seen the remainder of their time. Yeah. And the lunatic from upstate New York is back. One of the things that struck me when we got the package, and it is something that I have not seen with journaling games that have a book and all that, is the handout that came with it. And I spent a fair amount of time just kind of looking through that, and what I found myself when I was first looking at it, I found myself looking at it in the same way we do when we do actual plays with creators, right? I'm like, okay, so I'm going to build a character, and Josh is very fond of saying, "Oh, you just built yourself again," or whatever, and which I frequently do. So he's not wrong in that. But as I was looking through this, I'm like, oh, okay, and I'm like looking through these traits, and I'm putting this character in mind, and then I'm like, wait a minute. I just built myself again. And then I'm looking at another way to do it, and I'm like, I just built Josh. And it's like, wow. Both, I believe it was before we were on air, I made the comment that this was so well designed for development of character without using some very tropey methods of character that you see everywhere else. And that doesn't mean they're bad, because there are lots of different ways to define character, but what I really loved about this was how specific and evocative it was without relying on the things that I typically see. Even though there are things that we typically see, because I build myself quite frequently. So I was still able to see that, but it was a more introspective process with this. And I really love that. So I guess I was asking, how did this page come to pass, and at what stage was that? Like, was this very early on, or was this towards the end? Like, when did this come into the process? I guess because I'm trying to get to, I know the process I use when I'm creating games, when I'm designing games or creating adventures or creating characters and such. I am, at the very least, beyond Yeoman's experience level with Josh's method, in that we work very closely and quite similarly, I would say. But I am always interested in how other creative minds create, more because there's usually a technique or two that I would love to add to my Rolodex of ideas, because when I want to diversify how or what I'm doing, so it's not quite what I always do, usually it's pulling a slightly different creative method that allows me to get there. So I'm very interested in that creative process and when this kind of entered into the
sure.
mix.
Yeah. So I anybody who's played any of the Possum Creek games, Yazeba's or Wander Home, we'll look at that and go, oh, I know exactly where those ideas come from. They're part of the, I think it's Belonging Outside of Belonging system has these great tropes of right, I'm not going to play a fighter, but I'm going to have something that's, that has the evocativeness, right? Like the names thing is definitely like a classic example. So you can choose. My true name is a disquieting name, an intimidating name, a weird name, a diplomatic name. It's not giving you a list of, here are the elf names that you can have, and here are the dwarf names, and it's more of a vibe, right? Like it's the feeling of, well, what do I want this character to be? And I love that kind of idea of characters being an idea, right? Like not being a set of numbers on a page with here are the names that are appropriate for this race and this, it's what is weird to, like, what a weird name to me is will be different than what it is to Josh, will be different than what it is to you. And I think that plays into like how you think of your game, of your character. When you're doing a solo RPG, I think it's important to get some of those vibes. It gives you, like your game master would provide that, right? Here's the tone of our campaign. Well, we don't have a game master per se. So let's set like, all right, I want to choose a weird name. And that is going to set a tone for everything else you choose, right? So, all right, I chose a weird name and because I think this is a weird character and what that name is, it doesn't really matter, right? It's the idea of, okay, well now I've got in my head somebody that's a little weird. And then the thing that people call you, so under the you can call me a dazzling name, a gentle name, a mysterious name. Well, this is the name that people of the four worlds know you. So maybe in your heart, I'm kind of a weird guy, but out in the world when I'm helping people out, I have a dazzling name. So that's now adding a layer, right? So now in my heart, I've got a weird character, but the surface that I'm going to show to people is going to be this, flashy sort of guy. So not having, I'm going to choose Daryl as my character name. Well, what does that mean? That your character's name is Daryl, right? But when you say, all right, I'm going to choose a strong name. All right, well, that now starts to feed into your idea of what the character is, more than just a blanket, set of nonsense words. Is that, I don't know if that answers your question at all.
It really does, because it lends itself to, for those of us who have ever played Vampire the Masquerade in years past or presently, this weekend I had the pleasure of sitting next to, in the game room, there was two different Vampire Masquerade games going on at different times. In fact, I even bought a La Sombra pin, the last one available at the show, as a matter of fact, because the greatest clan there is, and I defy anybody to tell me different. Hush, Venture Josh. We're not having that fight tonight. But or maybe
gonna completely ignore the Bruja. I mean,
which is funny because three people made the exact same comment all three times I said that this weekend. But Vampire the Masquerade famously had the nature and demeanor, which was a brilliant mechanic, and I love it. I had largely stopped using alignment in other games around then, but whenever I am playing or writing NPCs, I always define them in my head with that mechanic in the back of my head. And what's immutable and things that change over time is an expansion of that concept in my head. And it's given me many more dials and levers to turn within that concept, as opposed to that, like you said, list of 12 very specific things that do that. So much better than alignment, and much better than Bond's Flaws and whatever from 2014. But this takes those two factors, which were better, and makes them really great. It actually gives you ways to do that better. Yeah. And again, it's taking something from this wonderful solo RPG and being able to apply it in different ways, in addition to just playing a great game.
And I think we're really in like a golden age of RPG design right now, where alignment did its job, right? It got us thinking about what kind of characters we're going to play, but it's almost a binary choice at this point. Not that it's binary, because you have many different alignments, but it's like, all right, well, I'm pigeonholed into this. But life isn't really like that, and I think we're seeing a lot of designers now saying, all right, well, let's that was okay for then when we were figuring out what this whole RPG stuff is, but how do we make it more, right? How do we give ourselves more options? How do we fill out the page with something that's not just a stereotype, or not just well, we've seen this character, I'm playing Indiana Jones again, or how, it's something that's more customized for you, and it's more noodly, that you can kind of think about, like, oh, what would this character do, and where would they go, and what do they really like? They're more than just, I'm a lawful good paladin, right?
Yeah. Well, those kinds of things, I think the issue where alignment really falters is the fact that it's very prescriptive. And not prescriptive in that these are the things you can do. It's more about these are the things you can't or should not do.
Shouldn't do. Yeah.
Right. And I do think the game by rule is more shouldn't. In application at the table, it is you can't. But I think that any system that is these are the things you would likely do, and if you're not going to do them, that's fine. But that's where you as a player need to fill in the story as to why you're not going this normal route. What in this scene, or what in this situation, or what went wrong all day long to make you kick a stone at the neighbor's car versus, say hi, Mr. Jones. Like, if you're normally a say hi, Mr. Jones, but today you kicked a stone, what story beats happened or are about to happen that would lead or stem from that? And if you're thinking that way, so it's freeing. It sets that normal parameter, and now you're like, wow, something extraordinary is about to happen. I feel some kind of way, not really sure, woke up on the wrong side of the bed, I'm in a mean way. And then now you've got something you can work with for the whole day. Now it's like, okay, so I'm helping these people to that next world, and, I'm like, being Hawkeye Pierce, yelling, shut the damn chicken up in the bus. There are great stories that can come from stepping outside of the norm.
And we've all got those days too, right? Like, none of us is all one thing all the time. We're, complicated. Today I'm going to say, hi, Mr. Jones next door. And tomorrow, I just woke up wrong. And
Cue Josh and Lewanika's conversation last week, Thursday.
Exactly right, yeah.
Where we're both on the phone apologizing to each other 4 hours later. Like, I don't know what was wrong with me.
I was
Dude,
an asshole.
You didn't deserve that. I was bad.
Yeah. And I think that, Lewanika, what you're kind of talking about there is part of what I was getting to with the simplicity of the mechanics and the way to kind of strip down all of the artifice and break it down into these are the things that you are and these are the things that people perceive you to be. And so tying all of that, even just like the name bit, tying it directly to your identity as a character is a really, really powerful kind of meta concept that shapes the entirety of the game. I mean, even just the things that, like, even who I am, like you're saying, who I am as a character changes throughout the sense of the story, at least in the way that people perceive me, but who I am never really changes. That is an immutable thing. The things that I want, the things that, and I think that it's very interesting that the relationship between you and the trickster is one of those things that never changes. The trickster knows who you are, and therefore that that is kind of always a guidepost to, again, if you're looking to win, air quotes, right? And we kind of keep tossing that term around, but if you're looking to give, let me put it this way, if you're looking to give the trickster what it wants and what you want, then there is a way to do that by following that poll, because the trickster knows who you are. But all of these other things that everybody else, all the other travelers and everything like that see you as, change throughout the scope of the story. And sometimes you are something to one traveler and you are a different thing to a different traveler. And that's the point. Right. So yeah,
how much like life is that? I mean,
exactly right.
I mean, we've talked at great length about real life world stuff, but we've talked at great length that, you know, I'm who I am, but like my job, my day job is on the phone. I talk to people on the phone. Yeah. And the amount of times people meet me and they're like, you are not at all what I expected. Like that so frequently happens. Like for whatever reason, people think I'm like 8 feet tall and I'm this giant human being. And I'm like, there's no part of me that reaches 8 feet tall on a stool in cowboy boots with a 10-gallon hat.
In a 4-foot
and a stick. You know, these are the things I would need to not be 8 feet tall. You know, but it happens all the time. Like people are generally amazed that I'm 5'3". You know, they're just weird things that just happen. That perception versus reality, and I love any game that really just brings that in to the process.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump in here with my next question, and probably our last question of the night, because we've been having this fantastic conversation. So I wanted to talk about the nature of the 4 worlds themselves as a concept, because again, I think that as another really interesting concept, you set up the 4 worlds as these defined by these dichotomies, right? So you've got the land of the living, which is a place of familiarity and prosperity, and you've got the not the world, which is a really interesting way of kind of talking about like that other side, right? Like the upside down or whatever you want to call it.
Right. Yeah.
That is a place of mystery and of transformation. So again, we're talking about the hero's journey earlier, right? You've got to go to the thing, learn what you got to learn, and then come back. But you never come back the same way that you did before. And then the cloudburst I will never pronounce this word correctly. The cloudburst archipelago, exactly. A place of passion and indulgence, which again, as two closely related concepts, maybe should not always be so closely related, but they are in this world. And then the Char, a place of growth and recklessness, which again, as kind of the counterpoint to the not the world, right, which is a place of transformation, this is a place of growth and of recklessness. So you've got to take like reckless chances to grow. Where did the concept of the kind of those 4 worlds come from, and what do you view as kind of like the way that they all interact with one another?
I really wish I had a good answer for that. It's one of those things that I just sat down and started noodling over stuff, and like I keep a lot of these like Moleskine journals.
Sure.
And I'm constantly doodling things in that, and I think if you looked at my game design book where I was working on this, it's I came up with some names that those sounded interesting, and what do those all mean? And I just sort of kind of grew out of that. I definitely wanted to, because it uses a deck of cards, because you need a deck of cards as your oracle system. I did some research into like so decks of cards and tarot cards have very similar origins. And so I looked into like the meanings of, all right, well, there are 4 suits. So there are 4 elements. Well, there's going to maybe be an element that's involved with each of those. All right. So that breaks that up into air, fire, water, earth. Okay. Well, we're going to do a water. Let's do an archipelago. And so it just kind of is one of those like noodly, just kind of poking at it and nudging at it and seeing where that takes you, and trying to see the connections between the mechanics that I'm thinking about putting in and the theming that I'm working with, and then mushing them together until they make some sense.
All right. Well, then let me ask you the very esoteric question then that kind of goes along with that. Okay. Which of the worlds do you live in?
Oh, I live in. I don't live in any of the 4 worlds.
You've paid.
I am the trickster.
Nice.
There is truth in that.
And there's that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, so like the you're talking Hero's Journey, and I love me some Joseph Campbell. The Sylvan is really kind of, is you, right? Like you make a character, and whenever you make a character, there's definitely parts of you that fall into that character, right? Because you're playing a version of you that doesn't exist, or maybe does exist that is now tweaked to be fit into a world. So I wanted to have, you're the Sylvan, but you're also the trickster,
right?
And
that's why it knows you.
Yeah. And why you love the trickster, or maybe you hate the trickster, or and then you can start thinking about, well, what does that all mean? Like to me, you bring it to your therapist and you say, huh?
I started with, I could have saved myself a great deal of money and sessions just by playing this game first. And now I'm like, I would have saved a lot of money on the front end, but now I'm back.
Well,
but at least I have a framework to have those conversations, because it does bring up like some of the best really good dramas. It doesn't leave you saying that was a good show. It leaves you saying, wow. Yeah. Whether it's because you're putting yourself in one of the characters, like what would I have done, or you're just observing it, like what does this mean to me, and you've got something to ponder. That's kind of what it is. Like just looking at the one sheet here, I was pondering concepts of the character for the game. I was pondering concepts of characters in all of my gaming and tabletop life, and wow, how would I describe every character I've ever played and really loved? Not every character, but all the ones that I really dug into and got into. Like, how would I use this to define them? Or how could I have improved some of the ones that I never really connected with had I just done this as an exercise? And then leaving that with, how would I define myself in reality, Earth, Norwich, Connecticut, and what does that mean? What are the things that are immutable that I really don't care about for myself, and how would I go about seeking a change? And then one of the concepts that kind of left me with is leaving the 4 worlds, you getting to change one of the immutable things, so you become a better version of yourself wherever that next realm is. That was like a little armchair psychology, I guess. But I mean, those are the kinds of thoughts that were in my head, and why a game like this truly resonates with me, because it allows me to ask those deep questions.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that it's a coincidence that the first time that I actually was able to go ahead and escape was a journaling exercise that I was doing through my sobriety journey. So, like, there's something in there about using this as a way to understand yourself better. And that's a really, really, really hard peg to square. Like, that's a really, to make something that is that meaningful on so many different levels is really hard.
Like, you can make things that do that, but they're not necessarily fun. I've done a number of journal exercises for variant reasons in various situations, and they did what they were meant to do. Would I say I've got about 2 hours? I'm so glad I'm reaching for the book, because since I got it, this book has been right here on my desk, right here in front of my monitors, on the stand, because I could leaf through it and do some concepts. I've not done a full playthrough, but literally just reading it and thinking about things, reading some of the different card values and things like that was just really fun. And quite honestly, with all the things we do for the podcast and for the writing and the creating, great for just clearing my mind and being creative. Like I just get to it became a way to relax and enjoy while still being creative and not shuffling through another 2 hours of reruns of some sitcom, which are fun and they're good and I like them. Sure. But
you've been there and you've done that.
Yeah. You know, I have seen all of the good ones I have seen most of. Occasionally there's an episode I have missed. Very rarely. And I really like doing something like this much better.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of the solo RPG, right? Like that's why it's such a small market right now, because I don't think a lot of people like, well, I kind of get role playing in a group, but why would I do this by myself? And the reason you do it by yourself is because you can take a journey that's your journey, right? That you can kind of then spend as much or as little time noodling over as you want. So
I personally feel that while I personally can't use the phrase forever GM anymore, because I am blessed with the ability to play. I play in a couple different live games with Benito and a lot of the crew that is down at Crossroads, often Art and rest of the gang. I get the opportunity to play at my friend Scott's house. I play a Fallout game there. I get the opportunity to play in a Warhammer game at my local shop down here in Connecticut. So I get to play quite a lot. But that's really only been in about, the last year and a half to 2 years, Josh?
A couple years, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, about 2 years. But I have made a concerted effort to play more so I can be a better GM, because I thought I was losing the track. And I had not known about solo journaling before that. Had I could have used this in those times where I wasn't able to find a group or be able to get into those other games or be in those other situations. Because to me, that's one of the things we do. Our Patreon games are largely populated by folks who do not get to play often. Right. They are almost always the GMs. And I love the fact that we're able to provide that for other gamers like ourselves who just need that outlet so they can go back to their tables fresh.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I'm blessed to have my home group we're all game masters, so it's a really interesting dynamic when your table is all taking turns playing, or running, and I get a break and then I get to play in your world for a while. And, but not every game master has that available to them. So solo RPGs.
They do if they chill and hang out down at Crossroad Games or hashtag call your boys TTJ. We got you covered. You forever GMs out there, come on down.
Well, on that,
I do want to say this was never meant to be a printed thing. I printed some out to give as Christmas gifts for the people who helped me play test, and printing cost is expensive, guys. I don't know if you've printed anything recently, but it's it's so expensive.
Look, Crossroads Games very kindly backed our Kickstarter that we are hoping to fulfill very shortly, and I am watching print costs fluctuate on a daily basis
and
with my heart condition. Yeah,
and this is it's got full color art in here, and full art printing is like. I looked at it and I thought, okay, I can print 5 copies, or I can buy a printer and some paper and use an X-Acto knife and make them. So, I like to think of it as artisanal game master or
like
game.
Jesus, everyone is different. Yeah.
So they're all home printed. At my house, I have a massive paper cutter now that I could chunk to make everything all nice and smooth, and so like you can do a lot of stuff from your house, like all your old zine knowledge from the back in the 90s. It can come back and be an RPG.
the Traveler's Guide to Faction is going to be somewhere north of 160 pages. So we'll send you the PDF when it's done. We'll let you do all the printing. We're going to
all the printing. No.
Yeah.
Tapping out.
That's what I heard here is that you're willing to go ahead and do that for us. Like that's.
I was really more going with the, if you've got a game this like out there that you want to put out, So I do have them that are for sale at the shop, but
I was gonna say so thank you for the segue actually to so first of all, thank you very much for coming on and talking about your game. For folks that are now interested in the Sylvan, how do they get their hands on a copy?
So you can go to Crossroad Games and you can get copies there. I do have a website, and you can, if you want a physical copy, you can buy the physical copies on my website, which is scrapyardgames.com. If you want a digital copy, which is how the game was intended to go out, those are available on itch, also Scrapyard Games. And I'll be away for a little bit next week, though. So if you are ordering in the next week, I beg your patience as I go and then come back. But
based on when this airs, this is airing this Friday, Josh?
On Friday, yeah.
Yeah, so this will air this Friday. So if folks see it, if they're contacting, everybody should expect a little bit of time for shipping anyway. So they should be fine.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. If anyone's mean to you, let me know.
Having a backlog of orders when you come back from vacation is not a problem.
I'll put a little notice up so people know. But
that is a win state.
That would be great. I've been. People have been very generous, and you guys have been super generous to let me come and talk about it, because it's such a. It's a neat way to play, but it's not. And there's a lot of really, really good solo RPGs out there. People, I think, should give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to steal Josh's tagline here. We love talking to awesome people about awesome things, creative minds, and you are all of the above. And we would love to. And, just a personal thank you from me, who has been out of Maine for far too many years, for providing a great home for so many of my dear friends. Where they can go, feel at home, feel comfortable, game. I love seeing pictures of my friends' kids when they're down there doing board game or playing Warhammer or Necromunda or whatever Ben's kids are up to at any given point in time. Art with all the HeroClix stuff. I still feel very connected to the community, because you give my community a place to be together. And that means a lot to me. So thank you so very much for that.
Our store does not exist but for the grace of the really, really wonderful community of gamers we have here in Maine. So thank you to everybody that's part of that. It makes a difference.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chris, again for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. Don't forget, please subscribe, hit the notification bell down below. And if you have any questions for Chris from Scrap Yarn Games, go ahead and leave them down in the comments down below. We will make sure that they get to her, and we'll get responses back to you. Although she's now following us on YouTube, so she'll see it, actually, if you go ahead and comment. She'll go ahead.
And while you're at it, everybody can join us on the Discord. Come in, say hi, talk about where you came into the show, talk about Chris's game and whatnot. We'd love to have you. Love to carry on a little bit of this conversation over there on the Discord channels.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening. Appreciate it as always. And we will be back next week. I think next week we're actually kicking off our next, if I remember correctly, as I waffle for a second here, pulling up the calendar. I believe next weekend we're launching back into our next episode of Class Warfare, which would be, we just did Wizards. So, which one did we do after Paladins? We did Paladins. That's right. We just recorded Paladins actually not that long ago. So so we'll be getting ready to go ahead and trot that one out. That one was a whole lot of fun. Another scenario being run by Mike Daniels. So that was an awful lot of fun. So we'll be trotting that out here shortly. And thanks everybody for listening. And we'll see you next week when we start talking Paladins. So until then, good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, all.